The 2002 Gujarat riots saw widespread violence across the state of Gujarat. The violence was triggered after 58 Hindu pilgrims and Karsevaks were killed in Godhra when their train returning from Ayodhya was set on fire. One of the victims whose case garnered massive media attention was Bilkis Bano. Bilkis was gang raped by several men, and 7 of her family members, including her 3-year-old daughter, were killed before her eyes. As India celebrated 75 years of independence last week, the 11 men who were convicted for gang rape and murder in the Bilkis Bano case were released on remission granted by the Gujarat government following a May 2022 order of the Supreme Court directing the state government to decide on the remission of the convicts. 2 petitions were filed before the top court challenging the decision of the Gujarat government.
The Supreme Court of India today began hearing an important case filed challenging the release of all convicts in the Bilkis Bano rape case. In the Bilkis Bano rape case, these 11 convicts were convicted back in 2008 and sentenced to life imprisonment for the offences of rape and murder. However, recently, all these 11 convicts have been released under the state government's 1992 remission policy after an application was filed seeking remission by all of them. This was after Supreme Court passed an order in May 2022 in an application filed by one of the convicts seeking remission, where the court said that the applicable remission policy will be Gujarat's 1992 policy and the appropriate government to decide the case would be the Gujarat government.
I think that all things considered, it went well because there was a sort of a feeling that is the Supreme Court itself being challenged, etc. And we said, no, that's not the case at all. But we feel that the rules and norms have not been followed, and the way in which this decision was taken for remission was possibly not the correct way, and therefore it is being challenged. The 2 judges who had actually given that earlier order were also present. They were part of the bench, and after some discussion, then they did agree to give notice, and we agreed also that, of course, the accused will be impleaded.
Though Bilkis Bano herself did not approach the court, a detailed statement by Bilkis and her family was released by her lawyers soon after the convicts were released. Bilkis in her statement says, "How can justice for any woman end like this? I trusted the highest courts in our land. I trusted the system, and I was learning slowly to live with my trauma. The release of the convicts has taken from me my peace and shaken my faith in justice. My sorrow and my wavering faith is not for myself alone, but for every woman who's struggling for justice in courts."
A bench headed by the Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramana, today issued notice in this petition. Interestingly, the CJI was sharing the bench with 2 judges who had earlier in May this year directed the remission application of one of the convicts to be considered according to Gujarat's 1992 remission policy. The court today observed that these convicts had already been convicted for the crimes that they committed. Justice Ajay Rastogi remarked, "What is the exception in this case when day in and day out convicts are being released under remission policies of different states? All these 11 convicts will now be made a party in the case after Supreme Court's direction today, which was passed after request seeking the same was made by lawyer appearing on behalf of these convicts."
Well, yes, Nabir, we're being joined by Rishi Malhotra, who's a lawyer for the accused. Sir, what has happened in the case? You've asked for an impleadment in the matter. What has the court said?
Yeah. You see, there were 2 things which transpired before the court today, before the matter was argued by Mr. Kapil Sibal, that we had appeared for and we were appearing for the convicted 11 accused, and this was very strange that they were asking a relief against us and they did not make us the party. So I had appeared before the court and I raised 2 preliminary objections before the Supreme Court. One was that there was no locus standi for a political party in a case like this, because criminal jurisprudence does not recognize a third stranger or third party stranger to interfere in a criminal jurisprudence matter. So that was point number 1. Point number 2 was that they were seeking relief against us in a case which was based on remission, and they were not even made parties in this case. So we objected to this thing. About both the aspects, the Supreme Court agreed with this thing and directed the petitioners first of all to implead all these convicts as a contesting respondent in this case.
The case has landed in the top court once again. Two petitions have already been filed against the release of the convicts, and Bilkis Banu's lawyer, Advocate Shobha Gupta, has confirmed that if required, Bilkis too will approach the Supreme Court with her own petition in the case.
The case is now likely to be taken up after 2 weeks by another bench of Supreme Court, as the Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramana, is due to retire tomorrow. Like the bench today said, the court will now consider if under the relevant scheme, the convicts were justified to be considered for remission. It's going to be an important hearing before the Supreme Court, considering the importance of the issue involved and the ongoing debate over the convicts' release across the country. From New Delhi with camera person Mridul, this is Srishti Ojha, India Today.